Hey folks, Quill18 here, and welcome to another episode of Let's Play Kerbal Space Program, the experimental build of version 1.1, and we are going to try to do a flyby of the moon today. This is the ship that I have designed for that. It is just under our part limit. We have a part limit of 30 right now in the current VAB. This is 29 parts. This packs one goo canister, one science module, 3 thermometers. We're still going to try to get the science from the low atmosphere on our way up and see if we can't get a little bit more. It does require paying a lot of attention during one of the most critical parts of flight, the takeoff, but we'll see what you can do. It also features our very first radial design, where we use some radial decouplers to get some side boosters right over here, because this is relatively heavy. We had enough thrust-to-weight ratio with this thing, but not really quite enough. So we're going to start with, actually, I guess all 3 engines is fine, since we are funneling fuel from the side bits to the middle bits. And the sooner we empty the 2 side tanks, the sooner we can get rid of them, saving a lot of weight. So this should be a great way to get started. This is a very lightweight sort of asparagus staging here with these fuel setups. So we got all 3 engines burning, then we pop off the 2 side ones, then we decouple over here. Oh, the other thing is that this is a Terrier engine as opposed to a swivel engine. Terrier engine is very, very fuel efficient in space. Inside the atmosphere, it has very poor thrust and very poor fuel efficiency, but in space it is extremely fuel efficient, and therefore it's going to be a great engine to give us some more delta V to hopefully whip around the moon. We'll see how it goes. And then the upper stage is just same thing, science module, the heat shield, and hopefully we'll come in shallow enough so that we don't smack into the ground like we did with poor Jebediah there. If we brought a drogue chute, we might have been okay, but we didn't. I've still got 3 thermometers here because I'm hoping to get some thermometer readings on the way up. And I also brought some batteries, and the reason I brought the batteries here, and they probably don't need them, but it's sort of a just-in-case kind of thing. First of all, I love the way they look. It's great. Unlike our swivel engines down here, the Terrier engine does not have an alternator, which means it will not generate power while it's on. We don't currently have solar panels, so there's a risk that we could run out of power during our mission, which would be particularly bad. So this is our Zerelius class, lifter here. Well, basically, all the bits on the bottom sort of are that, and then we just have our sort of mission command module up at the top, which is more or less unchanged than some of the other missions that we've got there, but the bottom is a bit different. So we still don't have the support structure here to hold this up. Hopefully it's going to be balanced, but it means, assuming that this will do what we want, it means we don't actually have to worry about improving the VAB. We don't have to embiggen this to add more parts, which means I could spend the money upgrading the tracking station for the patch conics, but just in case it turns out that doesn't quite work out for us, I'm going to go ahead and launch like this. I don't need the patch conics to get to the moon, and this will give us an extra window in case it turns out this can't reach it and we need more parts. Then we'll be able to upgrade the VAB. We need to make sure we've got a pilot in here, so we are going to take Valentino with us. Oh, poor Jebediah. I'm so sorry, buddy. I feel terrible. But we're going to let that loss sink, or like be canonical anyway. We're not going to rewind to a previous save. That would be terrible. I did use 2 of our parts for the nose cones here for a little bit more of aerodynamicism. And I don't currently know what our thrust to weight ratio is. It's probably pretty big, so we'll probably throttle back as soon as we take off. Speaking of takeoff, and we don't have support struck, so we got a little bit of that wobble. And yeah, it's pretty big. I'm going to bring it down to about, I don't know. You know what? Maybe we're fine. It might not be that much. Actually, that's not bad at all. This is the low atmosphere. Let's go ahead and get our temperature reading right away. And capture that. Excellent. Really good. Goodbye. We'll tell the moon we said hi. You said hi. Alright, let's go and go all the way over to about 10 degrees. I should maybe started a touch sooner, but this is going to be okay. And then when we get there, try to bring it down, I'm going to tell Valentina to just keep locked on prograde. And this should be more or less a more proper gravity turn in that it should, based on the force of gravity and different things like that, keep tipping us over a little bit at a time. Meanwhile, Valentina is going to be chasing this yellow circle in exactly the right way that we should want for our gravity turn. What? Hang on. Did I have my staging wrong? No, all 3 engines were burning, right? Oh, no, I do have my staging wrong. Ah, because I had it right, and then I made a change, and then it broke my staging. Hold on, let's try that again. That's why my thrust away, or my liftoff wasn't so crazy. I didn't notice the middle one wasn't burning there. There we go. Okay. So I will use revert for things like that, certainly. So yeah, I had got it right, and then I moved some things, and then I broke it. So let's try that again. SAS is on. Stability is on. Yeah, now we're going crazy with that. Say that makes more sense. And if I bring the throttle to around 80%, that seems like pretty good thrust profile right over there. Unless I'm wrong, I think the shuttle does something similar. I think it has to throttle back quite quickly after liftoff. It might technically have its initial thrust set to like above 100% or something crazy like that too. There's some weird stuff that goes on that way. So again, I'm going to try to force the issue around to about 10 degrees and then just lock to prograde. There we go. If we accelerated too quickly at this phase, it would be a little bit of a waste of energy because we'd be hitting the atmospheric drag and we'd be losing some of our potential delta V. Delta V means change in velocity. And it's just a general rating of like how much more boom we've got. It's not about how fast we deliver the thrust so much as based on the fuel we've got, how much can we change our speed by. So we're getting that wobble. Alright, we can go to full thrust now. Just because the length of our rocket, as I try to just adjust to the side, we get a little bit of wibble wobble, which is characteristic of long rockets like this that haven't been strutted to the max. Okay, I think we are coming in a little high, so I'm going to go ahead and just try to manually tweak things over here to where I would be more comfortable. So I'm sort of bringing our prograde marker down a little faster, and also trying to get back to the 90 degrees, because the moon is more or less in a proper equatorial orbit with Kerbal. So if we are leaving directly at 90 degrees, first of all, we get a boost from the fact that Kerbal is rotating that direction, and secondly, we'll be at the proper inclination to encounter the moon. We don't have to be dead bang on, but it would certainly help. I'm fighting Valentina's controls over here is what's happening. That's why there's so much wobble and so much fight. But I'm happy to keep her in prograde. Okay. I'm liking this. How we looking orbit-wise? Apoapsis of 42,000 and climbing. That's 43. Yep, we should end up with a fairly easy and fuel-efficient circularization. Done entirely with this stage. We might even be able to do a fair bit of trans-lunar injection with this, which would mean we'll have more than enough delta V with the very fuel-efficient Terrier engine to make it the rest of the way. Good. I'm loving this ascent profile. Very comfortable with this. I can sort of preload the unused experiments over here. Come on, I'm trying to get this thermometer. Why can't I click on that thermometer? I can only click on you? I mean, that's fine. I want you open as well. Okay, still looking good. Okay, no, it looks like we might have to circularize the Terrier. Oh, right, and I forgot. Whenever I change views, it goes away. All right, so no worries there. And I'll finish the rest of this burn. There we go. Okay. So just lit that. Make sure that's working okay. So we can't plan a maneuver. It would be nice if we could, but we can't. So we'll just wait until we enter space. We'll time warp over there. We'll circularize, and then we'll plot our approach to the moon. So I'll do a little bit of physics warp here. I'll turn off the SAS, so we don't need it. There we go. Physics warp done. Now we can time warp till we get here. But yeah, we really aren't going to need a whole hell of a lot of delta V to get there. So stop. Whoops, I may have overkilled it a little bit. Flip yourself to prograde as quickly as possible. And there's the moon. We'll get it on the next orbit, though. For now, we're just going to try to circularize, a fair bit. Make sure we're in a proper orbit. And if it's around orbit, all the better for style points. And there we go. That'll be pretty good. Still lots of fuel left in this tank. Great. I don't suppose there's more temperature information to be had. In space. Okay, so there's no... The biome information for temperature... Or the temperature information in space is not biome dependent. There's the moon. We'll get it on the next pass, though. So, the trick is, with the moon, first of all, with the moon here, you actually do want to start your burn actually a little sooner than this. Right around here is generally where it's going to be. But the trick is, if you wait until you see the moon just rise, that will do what you want. So we're going to come back to around here. With the moon at 12 o'clock, we're going to come back to around, I don't know, 4 o'clock. And then we're going to wait for the moon to rise, and then we're just going to burn prograde. And that'll be it. And we will intersect the moon. We don't have patch conics, so it won't show us when our path will actually encounter the moon. Okay, stop and... Oh, it's already... Shoot, I might be a little bit late with this. Well, let's give it a go. So we're just going to burn here. We're going to stretch out our orbit until it hopefully gets close to the moon's orbit. And then we'll probably intersect it. We're a little bit late. I suppose I could have just... I mean, we've got time warp. We've got infinite amount of time. I could have just waited for one more orbit there. But that's okay. And actually, since we're a little higher, it's at 100,000, it tends to be right when you see the moon rise. At a higher orbit, you tend to wait until it's a few degrees above, and we were a little bit higher, so it might actually work out almost optimally. In any case, we should be able to get our moon encounter. So yeah, I'm just going to wait until the apoapsis is right around this gray line. Probably doesn't have to make it literally all the way there, but it'll have to make it almost touching to connect. And you can see it's going to accelerate, it's going to accelerate. So I'm going to go and throttle back. Throttle back. And I'm betting by here, we almost certainly have an encounter. The big question is, are we too high? No, not really. We can make an adjustment to it by burning, so right around here, we could burn anti-normal. Let's turn off the SAS because we don't need it. So I'm just going to fast forward until we're above, I think 270 is high orbit. I don't remember. Now we definitely are there, so we should be able to get... Oh, I don't really want to do that here. I was going to say crew reports and all that. No, we're going to get a lot more science if we do it from the moon. So we're not going to get any high orbit Kerbin info. So I'm just going to fast forward until we're around here. So that'll be a really good place, I think, to do our anti-normal burn. Because if we do it sort of here, we'll mostly just be twisting our orbit. But if we do it around here, it'll drop the end. So normal and anti-normal are the pink bits over here. I don't remember which is which. And what we want. I think we want this one. Well, let's find out. If we just look and we go for a burn for a sec, does it bring the orbit up or down? That's bringing it down. Nice. And a little bit more, and a little bit more, and there we go. So now it looks to be, it's going to cross there. It's pretty close. Almost certainly. And there's a possibility I'm wrong. There's a possibility I'm a little bit short. You know what? Worst case scenario, if we're short, we wait until we get them all the way around the periapsis. We give ourselves just a little bit of a nudge. Although the moon won't be in the same place, so we really got to hope we get an encounter here. I'm pretty sure we will. So we're going to warp until we ideally enter the moon's sphere of influence. Oh no, my burn was like... Ooh, I don't know. I don't know, you guys. Aha! Kill all speed. We did it. Although, we are currently on a crash course of the moon, and I timed warp a little too far, so that's not great. We need to burn radial. Not normal, radial. This one here, which is going to nudge our path rightwards. Oh my god, I waited. I should have done this before. What's the periapsis here? Now, the downside to what's going on here is it is going to slingshot us out into space. After we leave the moon here. We're going to be slingshotting far away from Kerbin. But I don't want to use any more delta V to sort of enter into a safe orbit or doing anything of that nature. Because that would ideally be the thing. We would enter orbit around the moon and then leave orbit in the most ideal and safe way. The free return trajectory is possible to do here. That is to say, if we just loop around the moon in exactly the right way to send us back to Kerbin in exactly the right way. It is possible to do in Kerbal, but it's actually much harder to do in real life because of the relative scales of things in Kerbin. Things in Kerbin are a little bit smaller. They have the same gravity, but they're much smaller. As such, it's a lot harder to properly slingshot around the moon in such a way that you'll come back to Kerbin without doing anything else. But we have lots of delta V to adjust afterwards, so that's it. We're just going to do a flyby on the moon. I guess we can do our science here at high orbit. I don't think it really matters where we do it, so let's do... I mean, we'll want to do all the science in both places. We might get more science from low orbit, but I'm not sure. High radiation environment caused a few of the samples to glow. Looks like this would be fun to paint the rocket with. All right, and we'll get the goo. The goo feels right at home here. Excellent. We're going to keep that. And we will do a thermometer thing. Excellent. Measuring the temperature of space appears to be quite impossible, as there's no matter around it would be either hot and cold, except the spacecraft and the thermometer itself. This is probably going to give the R&D guys something to think about for a while. We got that, and we do have one more thermometer, so we can get some low orbit info. And we're going to get a crew report over here. You look down at the gray cold surface, it looks really beat up with craters. Because we have not upgraded our science center, we currently cannot do an EVA. But clearly, okay, we don't need the money. We don't need to save the money for the VAB. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to go to the Space Center, which we can do. We can leave our mission running as is. I'm going to go and upgrade the astronaut complex so that we're allowed to do EVAs. And then I'm going to go to the tracking station. Got it. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and spend the money to upgrade Patch Conics as well, which is going to help us, could help us plan our return a little bit, but I think it's a bit of a moot point. It would have helped us get to the moon. And we are going to go and fly our Zarelius class ship over here. And now, because we've upgraded the astronaut building, Valentina can EVA. This is our first EVA here. EVA report. 16. So we get extra science, but not only that, but I can go and grab the science out of these thermometers. Take temperature, so we can reuse them. Have I not used any of them yet? There we go. Take temperature. Lovely. I could take the science out of the other 2 bits, but since they were already planning on returning them home, there's no reason to do that, and because I'm not a scientist, I can't reset that experiment. I could bring a scientist here, assuming I could use a probe core that had SAS controls, because I don't want to have no SAS. That's too important. And personally, I set a rule where my missions always need a pilot, so I don't do the probe core plus scientist just because it's a little bit more interesting, and it encourages me to run missions where you bring multiple Kerbals. But there we have it. Okay. So we've gone and done that. So now when we enter low lunar orbit, we should be able to get... Oh, hold on, I forgot one. The real reason I initially EVA'd was so that I could grab all the science from here, including the crew report. Because then I can run a new crew report. So we're going to wait until we're in low orbit. I don't remember what that is for the moon. I think it's under 50,000. Whoop, 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 whoop. Okay. All right, that's fine. We're still okay. We're going to get a crew report here. Excellent. On space near the moon, so there's no biome-specific stuff for that. I believe there is for the EVAs, though. Moon's Highlands, so we're going to keep that. We're going to board. And then, let me quick save before we do all this in and out and potentially crash things. I'm just going to keep checking to see. Nope. If we go above another biome. This is all Highlands. Can I, no. Cannot time warp while we're on the ladder. Fair enough. Might be coming up over a crater. Nope. This is one of the things I really like Science Alert for, so you don't have to keep checking that. It just gives you a little bloop bloop whenever you've got new science available. All Highlands. Suppose I could board for a little while. Did I do low moon temperature? No, I don't think I had. And again, here, the crew report is not biome specific. But I should still take the data, store all the data. And again, crew report is just in space over the moon. Yeah, we already have this one here, so no more crew reports to be had. One of the mods I play with, the DJ Magic Science Extended mod, or whatever it's called, changes a lot of rules as to where you can do science, so I don't always remember what it's like. So now we have Patch Conics, we can get a preview as to exactly where we'll leave some of these orbits and what our orbit's going to look like after. We're actually on Kerbal Escape after this, which is really far from ideal. Now, I can't make maneuver plans, but I think... So that sucks, because I would love to plan a maneuver node and get some feedback here. I think currently, because I'm basically at our periapsis with the moons thing, if I go and burn retrograde here, I'm going to bring that in and slingshot less far into space. So we will be improving things with very minimal delta V. There we go. After that, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait until we escape, and then I'll burn retrograde once we've escaped the moon. But already, we used a relatively minimal delta V to... Hello. Seriously? We might get a Minmus encounter. Well, well, well. That's very interesting. What are we doing on fuel? About a third of a tank left. That's very interesting. Are we still in the Highlands? Midlands! Excellent. More science. And there's a bunch of little individual craters here, but that is definitely something that without help from mods, I won't be able to catch those properly. And crew report, right, this is the high over, which we've already done. I mean, I guess I can keep the experiment and then just confirm. If I do that, if I go and grab all the data and try to board, it'll probably throw one away. Yeah, so we have both the low and high moon. This is the getting doubled up here, the science info, because of the way I'm grabbing it, but that's okay. I'm going to quick save before I do a time warp, because I'm going to time warp. Oh, without the calendar thing, I can't do that. Let's say time warp to the lunar escape. But oh, whoa, 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 slow down. Don't want to go through too fast. Going through at times 50 is pretty comfortable, though. So we'll officially escape the sphere of influence of the moon, and then we'll get a good idea as to what is going on here in space. I wonder if I can upgrade the command thing and actually get, I wonder. Hang on. Quick save. Let me go back to the Space Center. Because if I upgrade mission control, I might be able to get maneuver nodes. Yeah, 75,000. It's not going to leave us with a whole lot, but we can also get more contracts, and we can just farm contracts for money as well. So now, oh, this is very exciting. This is progressing a little faster than I expected, actually. So in hindsight, I could use maneuvers to plan my route to the moon, but I didn't know and I didn't trust. So we're going to encounter Minmus just barely. If I go and do this, then I will encounter Minmus. Well, presumably, actually, I don't. No, that if I've got a very slim encounter window with Minmus, I might be able to tune it a bit. One cool trick you can do, where's actual Minmus, is if I focus on Minmus, then I can see exactly where my orbit will bring me. And then I can do things and see, does that bring me closer? Really? I shouldn't do anything right now. We're just barely encountering it. What I might do part of the way there, I might go and burn a little anti-normal to bring us a little bit more equatorial to Minmus, which should make the encounter a lot easier. But, although I'm going to do a second flyby, well, I guess if I don't do anything, we'll just barely nudge by Minmus, and it'll hardly affect our thing. I can't really science. I guess I could get crew reports and EVA reports. That's it. And I guess I can get temperature. You know, that's worth something. Hell, I may have wanted to escape Kerbal for a second and get some, you know, some credit for going around the sun. That's certainly very interesting. So which one of these two is mine? That's one of the problems when you've got these orbits that are kind of close together. It's the blue line I want to plan a maneuver on, and I want to plan it over here. And what I would like to do is plan a little bit of anti-normal. So it's going to bring my orbit down, down, down to be more in line with Minmus. Still going to come at it a little crooked, but this actually gives us a much bigger window for rendezvous, which means it's going to be quite easy, whoopsie daisy, for me to do something like this, which will pass us closer to Minmus. Okay, it's very fiddly right now. I'm going to leave it as is. It's actually going to be really hard for me to execute this maneuver completely accurately regardless. So that's fine. What I'm going to do before we do the maneuver, I'm going to bring my engine thrust way down, because it's going to be hard to get exactly 9.2 meters a second. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to accelerate time. Is that built in? Is there a thing to warp to the next maneuver? I guess not. That's literally all. Is that all mods? Cheapers. Okay, that's fine. So we got 2 days until we can hit this maneuver. So Valentina had to bring a lot of snacks in her spacesuit. There we go. Bring it way down. We're hitting that point where like a few minutes either way is not going to make much of a difference in our maneuver because we're so far out and it's such a long orbit. But for the sake of argument, I'll go and fast forward to be a little bit closer. But yeah, it basically makes no difference here where we make the maneuver. So let me go and turn on SAS, find the maneuver, which is a little bit retro, but mostly anti-normal. There you go. Point directly to the middle of the blue thing if we can. Burn. I'm gonna go full burn, but remember we're only burning at like 7% of our engine's max. And then just make a slight adjustment and burn very slowly and just try to chase this. It's most optimal to, in theory, if you could dump all your delta V change instantaneously, that would be 100% the most optimal. But since we can't, since we're so far away that the slow rate doesn't matter, but ideally you want to do the max burn as quickly as possible. Okay, so we know that's going to get us fairly close, right? Focus view. Not quite as close as you initially expected, because a tiny difference at this distance makes a huge difference. But that's going to be a pretty good start. And if I'm going to do any other adjustment, we're going to get closer. So I can, you know, okay. So I can, if I just click warp to here. So I guess that's the thing to do. Maybe I was getting confused. I think I was right-clicking on the lines. Warp to here. Make sure you don't accidentally click on the purple line, or you're going to have a bad time. Days and days and days. Clearly don't have a life support mod. Minus encounters in 8 days. Okay. I think I can babysit this enough now. And I'm just going to wait until we actually... Well... At this point, if I were to burn... anti-radial. That's an interesting little update to the preview. Hold on. Cancel. Cancel. How come I can't? Oh, because this is how I focus on Minmus. There we go. Look, why can't I do a focus? Add maneuver. Oh, really? There we go. Gonna be a little bit silly oriented leaving, but we can tune that as well. There we go. And actually, this is going to cause us to slingshot around Minmus in the correct way to help bring down our orbit. And how can you tell? Well, you can tell because from this point of view, Minmus is going from right to left. So if we exit Minmus going towards the right, from left to right, we're clearly going in the opposite direction of Minmus, which is what's going to happen here, and therefore we're actually slowing down our orbit on departure. All right, that looks like a pretty strong maneuver. We'll still be quite high, but I can do a little bit more fine-tuning. I'm just worried, like, it's very, very finicky at these numbers to pull this off. So let's go ahead and orientate ourselves correctly. How's our electrical power? Still good. Excellent. And we'll just fast forward a little bit to try to be a little closer to the maneuver. 38-second burn. So in theory, you start with like 19 seconds before the node. Whoop. Oh my god, it takes so long to slow down the time warp. Erg. Oh well. It's going to be close enough. And actually what I can do is, I can see, this is my actual path, this is my predicted path. And with this, I can just keep burning until my actual path is literally where I want. It's actually a little bit less finicky than trying to manipulate the maneuver nodes. The maneuver node will mostly just give me the correct direction for the burn. But for the actual timing for the burn, I can more or less eyeball it. I would like to bring it below this. I don't remember what I need for low orbit around Minmus. It's probably somewhere around 50,000. So if I can get below that, which this one was 56, so then I'll be quite happy, because we'll be able to get a little bit of extra EVA and an extra crew report, and I think an extra temperature as well. So I'm bringing it down, and actually the more down we go, we're leaving a little bit off, but pretty good. I think that must qualify for low orbit. I guess I can check. Kerbal Science, and on the wiki, there is a page that lists for each planet what the high and low divide is. And I bet you that'll be in the Civilopedia once we can actually demonstrate that, which I can't right now. Minmus. It's 30 kilometers, actually. Oh, and I didn't realize I am coming in a little low here now. So let me cancel that old maneuver. And we'll just wait until we're in the sphere of influence of Minmus, and it'll be really easy for me to just eyeball it and not worry too much. So, fast forward a little bit more. Close in on the sphere of influence. And nice. It automatically time warps you down to 50, but if we want to maneuver, we'll have to bring it down a little bit lower than that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, no, I don't need to plan it. Planning's for suckers. What I'm going to do is, yeah, burn a little bit anti-radial here, which will bring this in a bit. So we got to bring it below 30. Before I do that too much, I do want to burn a little bit. That's not the way I want. That's anti-normal. I actually want to burn normal, which is this one. Whoa! Whoa, whoa, whoa. Come back over here. There we go. So this should, there we go, raise this up to be a little bit more equatorial. Doesn't actually matter that much, but actually, it really doesn't matter at all, because no matter what, we're going to be in orbit around Kerbal. Yeah, no, that's fine. Never mind. So all I care about then is to continue to burn, not that one. That's radial. We want to burn anti-radial, which will shove our orbit a little bit more, well, from this perspective, towards the left. And there we go. As long as we go below 30, and I'll give us a little bit of extra margin so that we have more time to do things. There. So we are going to slingshot off a little bit differently than I'd hoped, but still, ultimately, we are dropping. Yeah, we're actually leaving almost perfectly in the exit direction, actually. Interesting. Cool. That's looking pretty good. And Kerbal periapsis will still be at 1.3 million meters, but as soon as we exit Minmus from over here, we'll be able to do just a tiny little retrograde burn. Relative to here, it'll drop our orbit. We'll easily be able to come home with fuel to spare. Double flyby. Amazing. No solar panels. And we're not getting all of our science, of course, because most of our science labs are already used up. If we'd come here, if we brought 2 command modules and we brought a scientist in our second command module, we could have reset all these experiments and run them over and over. But that would have, of course, taken a fair bit more delta V. Probably would not have been able to do it with the components we had. Oh, speaking of, I'm in high orbit. I can do some science already. Log temperature. There we go. High above Minmus. We can get a crew report. Lake beds seem relatively flat. Perhaps we could land there. Excellent thinking. Valentina, we are going to EVA you, so you're going to get your high orbit. You've recorded your observations about the situation. We're going to keep that. You're also going to take and then store all this data. And for the sake of argument, even though it's not really important, but just in case, I'm going to go and take and take. And the bottom thermometer hadn't had anything. But that will cause us to be able to reuse our thermometers. So transmitting thermometer data, you do lose some of the science. But if you just take it, well, any science that you just take and load into your cart, that's okay, or into your capsule. Okay, so now we have to wait until we get below 30. So I'm going to do another time warp. Always quick save before you time warp because, you know, well, you just saw how often I overshot. Actually, I guess I can use this warp here to be safe to start off with, to get us closer. Valentina is accomplishing very many things. Oh, we got a new milestone for a flyby of Minmus. Excellent, so that's more money. And we don't have a altitude altimeter here, so start the time warp. Where's Minmus? There it is. As soon as it drops below 30, we'll be able to do low orbit experiments. We know that we can get different EVA information for each biome, so I might pop in and out a couple of times. Although we're not going to be low for very long. And 30. Boom. There we go. Whoa! Changes our view. That's okay. Still need to put lights on and everything. In a crew report, grab that. I'm not going to read it. Yes, we attempted to eat dessert. I'm not going to read it because I have to quickly rush with the EVAs. So we're above the Midlands. We're going to take data and then we're going to board. And then what we can do is we can EVA again. Let me quick save first. And just check. Lowlands! Hey, look at that. Double biome. It might be hard. So we clearly were on the cusp between the Midlands and the Lowlands. I'm actually really happy we snuck it in there. We're still going down right now, so we are going to be sticking around for a little bit longer. Are we going to pass over another biome? Nope. We might pass over a crater if you keep sort of spamming this. It's possible. Slopes! Excellent! Beautiful! I was not expecting us to actually be able to get so much biome info here. Lowlands again. Lowlands. I guess I could slide this over here. I know, it's not necessarily the most exciting thing. It would be really great. Back in the Midlands, back in the slopes. Don't be fooled. We wouldn't actually get science from that. Just looking to see if we, like, get a crater or something like that. Yeah, we got more time around here than expected. Oh, science alert, how I miss you. And your little bloop bloop sound. I didn't realize I'm not attached anymore. Well, that's okay. I have lights. Boop. Grab on. EVA, nothing. I think it's because the main capsule is rotating. Okay, let me board. Time warp a little bit. We're back on our way up? Yeah, we are. And EVA again. No. We might be able to catch a crater, but I don't think it's worth our trouble. I would just want to go at this point. Oh, did we do... Yeah, we did a crew report at low. I know we did. It'll probably tell me I've got the science again, but if I just check and... Oops, that's not what I meant to do. If I EVA... let's just check again. Nope. If I take the data and then try to board, it'll probably tell me I have to throw one away. Yeah, that's the extra... That's the extra crew report. So, no need to do more than one. I hope we did low altitude temperature. I think we did. We can always check it again later on. So, we're going to pop out of the sphere of influence here. Yeah, we can go through at 50. That's okay. So, we'll leave Minmus. And wait a second to make sure it fully registers, because sometimes you get a little wiggle waggle between the two. So now we've left Minmus. We are currently on our way back to Kerbal. We're past our apoapsis, but we're so high up, it's still going to be fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to burn retrograde. And we're going to be dropping our parry. Because we're not burning at our apo, the parry is also going to move. So part of our burn isn't helping to lower it, but it's mostly there. So I'm just going to... Oh, we need to do a lot more burn than my 7% engine is going to do. So let's increase the thrust all the way up here. And go. I think if I click, it stays up, doesn't it? I thought it did. But it keeps telling me. Okay, so we'll do this. Now I'm going to burn a little bit more slowly. I want to re-enter, to be safe, I don't know, I like from here, no lower than 30. There's no way we're going to skip through the atmosphere, and it's going to give me lots of time to slow down horizontally. We're not going to pull another Jebediah here. We're going to enter very safely and cautiously. Okay, at this point, I could separate. I don't need what's in here. I could burn off a little bit of my horizontal velocity through a sort of combination retrograde radial burn when we get close to the planet, which might be what I do. May as well. I suppose there's no harm in it. And we're not intersecting the moon at any point. We're getting a nice preview about that. So this is a long mission. This is a 40-day mission so far, and it's still got at least, I think, 3 days, because it's going to be 2 to here and then a little bit more. Crazy long mission. Okay, so over here, if we burn retrograde, it's going to drop our periapsis. I don't really want to drop my periapsis, but it is also going to, overall decrease our orbital speed. So the way to keep your periapsis as high as it is, while just generally shrinking your orbital speed, which is going to shrink the other side, is to burn somewhere between retrograde, which lowers your peri, and, not that way, radial. Radial is burning sort of sideways, which twists your orbit around where you are. Hang on, there we go. But can also raise the periapsis through different means. It's not as efficient as normally burning radial. But if I burn between the two, we'll start slow, and we'll keep an eye on this. You see it's raising. So because it's mostly raising my peri, I'm going to move to be mostly burning radial, or retrograde, which is going to drop my periapsis. And if I move more towards radial, it's going to raise my periapsis. Meanwhile, I'm just burning off orbital speed. My goal is to try to reduce my orbital speed with as much delta V as I've got left in the tank, while keeping my periapsis just above 30, which I'm going to feel comfortable about. I mean, 25 is probably more than fine, but this is going to be safer. If you do come in a little too high when you're going really fast, there's a possibility you'll go through the atmosphere once, slowing yourself down, but it won't be enough to stop you from exiting the atmosphere again. Most likely, it'll be enough that you won't actually, leave the Kerbal system or anything like that. But you might have to come in a second time, and every now and again, that can cause you to come in a kind of a funky, silly way. There you go, lots of fuel, and yeah, we're burning off, like, I don't know, burning off a few. We've already got rid of over 100 delta V, didn't we? Which is going to make our re-entry a little smoother. It's getting a little bit low. Again, as long as it's over 25, it's safe, but I was targeting around 30 just because paranoia after we lost Jebediah there. Now, as your orbit gets smaller and smaller, it'll be trickier and trickier to find a balance point. It's going to start to deviate. The periapsis is going to start switching quite rapidly here. And this is at a pretty low burn. This is with a lot of control still going on here. We got to go and drop it a bit more now. You see a tiny little change in my orientation is radically modifying the rate at which my periapsis changes. If I was doing this at full burn, it would be quite ridiculous. I'm going to go burn a little bit more. Try to drop it. Good, good, good. Yeah. I think we were coming in originally at like 1700 or so orbital speed. And we haven't moved very much. Your orbital, like your relative orbital speed will change as you're at different points of your orbit. But mostly here we have just burned things off in standing still. So it's just a change of the orbit. We're dropping a little too much. Now we're raising it a little bit too much. All right. We got a little bit of juice left in the tank. Let's raise up a little bit, not too much. Somewhere between 25 and 30 would certainly be comfortable. Just don't want too low. That would be the worst. There we go. Now out of juice, and our periapsis is 27,798 meters. I'm very happy with that. So, completely out of fuel tanks. Let's turn off the SAS completely. Do that. There's nothing draining our electric charge at all right now. And all we have to do is wait until re-entry. So I'm just going to quick save before I do another time warp here. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the system to warp me to here. So I don't have to worry about overshooting too much at times 100, which is always a little bit risky. And then I'll probably just bring it down. This way I don't have to babysit things too much. That time warp is complete. We're at 150,000. So now I'm comfortable going at times 50. And let me just kill it. There we go. We are in the atmosphere. So I'm going to use stability assist mode. I'm going to manually point my rear end retrograde. And we are going to re-enter. Got the ablator there. Starting to burn up already. Because we are going quite a bit faster than most of our previous re-entries. Because, I mean, we were no longer at, like, the Mun or Minmus length of orbit, which would be very fast, but we were still a fairly high orbit at our periapsis there, which means this is coming in faster than our previous low orbit speed. But we're coming in a lot more shallow than our failed mission, which was just suborbital. Orbital speed wasn't even that much, but because we'd come in so shallow before, that's what caused Jeb to have a sudden stone-based deceleration, which was poor. So this should be plenty for Valentina to completely kill off the rest of her speed. Can check. See, our apoapsis is still at 1.7 million meters right now. Most likely, especially as we hit the thicker part of the atmosphere, which is right around now, it's really starting to get quite chunky, it should drop pretty substantially. But there is the possibility that we could skip through. Now, the other thing is, because we are slowing down here, we are also dropping our periapsis. And the problem is, if we skip through, it is conceivable that... Man, that heat. Maybe I need radiators. It is conceivable that we, after we skip out of the atmosphere and come back down, our periapsis will be so low that we'll come in too steeply, which would be bad. But almost certainly here, we still haven't reached our periapsis, and our periapsis is continuing to drop. Our peri will soon actually go into the ground, and therefore prove that clearly we can't go past. And in fact, soon enough, the apo is going to be within the atmosphere. So, but yeah, the peri, we're never going to catch it. It's into the ground, so we are going to land. Everything is fine. Some heat Love this new heat meter. Subtle change. Looks good. Hopefully it doesn't have any weird memory leaks, which it probably doesn't because the new UI system is a hell of a lot better than the old one. Hello, Unity 5. And what I would very much like to do is I want to continue doing these very aggressive missions. Because we've done career mode before, right? We don't want to grind all the low-level stuff. I would like to very early on do a flyby of another planet. Minmus or Eve or even Moho or something like that. We certainly need a lot more Delta V than we've got now. We would ideally like slightly more optimal or beefier engines, but we can get there pretty surprisingly fast. And if we bring a scientist with us, we don't need a ton of experiments. We just need one copy of each, and everything can be reset. I wonder how soon we can unlock a 2-man capsule, because that would be exactly what we need, isn't it? Okay. Heat effects done. We're still over 10,000 kilometers, and we're actually gonna run out of these. This is a supersonic effects over here. That's gonna start to go away quite quickly. We have a lot of electric charge, but if I hadn't brought the batteries, I would have run out of electric charge. I'd no longer be able to keep stable right now, so I'm happy I did that. Remember, we haven't even unlocked solar panels yet, and we probably will want solar panels for one of the really long missions. All right, I'm gonna turn off SAS, and the parachutes are fine. I'll wait a little bit longer here. Despite what happened to Jeb, I can still wait longer to open up the parachute. Because the problem with Jebediah is he didn't hit safe parachute deploy speed until he was well under 1 kilometer. Here, we're already not going that fast. So if I deploy at under 1 kilometer, the speed that we're going at is still going to be, look, it's still dropping just because of just generic air resistance. And you can see how the aerodynamic shape, I don't have SAS on, wants to keep near retrograde. But it's not quite there because of the center of gravity. So I'm going to go ahead and deploy the chutes. Our landing is 100% safe at this point, so I'm going to go ahead and put it in the cut because it's gone quite long, and I'm going to let landing slowly to the last kilometer, and it is going to be slow with all these parachutes. So thank you very much for watching another episode, folks, and next time we'll probably have to do a landing on the moon or Minmus to grind out a bit more science, plus we will hopefully get some contracts for that. Actually, I'm worried that we may have invalidated ever getting a contract for some of our flybys, but hard to resist, accomplishing a lot of these milestones, and we are coming back with a lot of science. So we'll see what our next missions are. And yeah, very soon. So we might do one landing on Moon or Minmus, and then I'm thinking I would really love to do a flyby of Duna if we can pull it off. It'll be hard because we won't have all the biggest engines for lifting something heavy. We won't have ion engines, but we should still be okay. Thanks for watching, folks. See you next time.